Welcome aboard the 4 to 7 podcast. I am Chris, joined as always by Jerry. We're a week away from the trade deadline. We just completed our meetup, inaugural regular season meetup at Citi Field for David Wright's retirement. Jerry managed to not cry during the ceremony, so if you had Jerry not crying, you probably got really good odds on that on FanDuel, and you're
I
a
would
rich
have lost on those
individual.
odds.
Yeah, you would have been like Luis Ortiz.
Yeah,
You've been like, why the fuck am I not crying?
I'm up there like, God damn it, come on.
Fuck. But no, a great time was had. I got to meet Jerry's two friends, his cousin and his friend, his cousin Patrick Kane, and his friend Arthas, right?
You know, Arches is a subscriber to the show, so as always, salutes him, and he put me up over the weekend, so I'll always be grateful for that.
Yeah, no, that's super clutch, especially with the amount of coin a hotel or Airbnb is these days. So shout outs to Arches, shout outs to Patty Kane. But yeah, a great time at the David Wright ceremony. Now the Mets are, Reds took 2 out of 3, but they got their lick back in the last game of that series and are now fresh off of a sweep to the Angels. So, I guess we'll get the good vibes out of the way first, and then I can crash out over my team that made 4 errors over the course of 2 innings.
This kind of feels surreal because for the past month, I feel like it's been the other way around. I mean, the fact that they've been able to sweep, I don't know, people say it's the Angels. The Angels played the Phillies pretty tough over. I think might have taken 2 or 3 from the Phillies. Over the weekend, if I'm not mistaken, and that series was also not a walk, the one that the Mets just completed. So to go in there, and especially with the fact that the Fab Four not really hitting at the moment. I mean, Lindor snapped a 0 for 24, 0 for 25 slump today with 2 RBI hits. Pete hasn't been hitting particularly well. Nimmo's been in something of a slump for him, considering he's been on fire for almost 2 months at this point. Soto's still getting his walks and what have you, so he's been fine. Weirdly enough, it's kind of been an inverse of the past few weeks. It's been the bottom of the order that's helped them out. Brett Beatty's
been on fire.
Brett Beatty might just have the third base job the rest of the way. He's continuing to stake a claim to that. Francisco Alvarez loudly announcing his return. Couple of big hits throughout this series, got his first home run back, and it was one of those that you knew it before the camera even changed its angle. You knew it was gone. He started the rally on, I believe, Monday night, got that going. Ronnie Mauricio's had some hits in there as well, and really for about a month and a half, it was the Fab Four plus McNeil that were carrying the bottom 4 of the lineup, and now, at least out of the break, it's been the other way around. And you would count on, 4 pretty great hitters in Lindor, Alonso, Soto, and Nimmo all eventually finding their way out of this, because they usually do. And especially in Lindor's case, because we've seen this over the past 4 seasons where his first halves aren't always great, but then he gets scorching hot in the second half.
Yeah, usually he has like a bad April, but he waited till July to have the slump this year.
So you kind of feel as if, okay,
he wanted that all-star spot to get the jersey you're wearing now.
Yeah, if he's just coming out of this now, then we know what's coming, and that's pretty good news for the Mets, which, especially given the schedule that they're going to have over the next few days. They're going to get the Giants twice, and then the Padres in between that. So that those are teams that are on the periphery of the race.
Yeah, and that's all. And that's all in California, right? You're going to San Fran and then Petco.
And then they come back to New York to play the Giants next weekend.
Okay, yeah. So
but the first 2 series are correct.
I see. So it's a little shit sandwich, I guess you could call it.
And Sean Manaea with his best. Well, actually, that's not even true because I would say the last outing right before the break against Kansas City, which he piggybacked Clay Holmes in that one, he looked great. And even though Kansas City scored off of him in the 9th inning that day, that was a surprise because they had not touched him to that point. And the Mets had tied the game in the 9th inning, and you felt like, okay, well, Minaya hasn't pitched all year. They haven't hit him yet. Might as well leave him out there till they do. Well, they got him. And then last Friday wasn't as sharp. Today, the only guy that got him was Mike Trout, which, hey, that'll happen.
You'll live with that.
Yeah, that's
Mike
fine.
Mike Trout is still a great baseball player. He's just rarely healthy, and I think it's one of the more tragic things, like one of the more tragic stories I think of the last 10 years in baseball is just the what could have been with Trout. But yeah, I mean,
it's Griffey-esque.
Yeah, as far as it's I'd say it's almost like a steeper fall off from how great he could have been, and maybe not a greater fall off because I feel like Trout I think is still gonna end up I think when it's all said and done, I think Trout might be a little better than Ken Griffey Jr.
It's one of those things where people look at his numbers this year and say, oh, well, he's human. And then you really look at it and go, well, yeah, human for him.
Human for himself.
That's a good year for a lot of people.
Yeah, still very good. And yeah, obviously it's just, a matter of him being on the field. But, I was actually, I was, taking a shower to freshen up a little before the show. And I was actually thinking in the shower, about Mike Trout, like any normal person does. But I was thinking about his career, and I was thinking about how his because he was on his way to being one of the best, and that kind of he kind of got robbed of that. And I was kind of thinking about a Judge, and I was thinking about I was comparing Judge and Trout in my head, and to me at his peak, I think Trout is still a better player than Judge at his peak.
I mean, just because Trout could steal 30 bags a year and he was playing excellent center field defense for years.
Yeah,
and really the biggest difference is that people watch the Yankees and people don't watch the Angels. I think if people really were paying attention to Mike Trout on an everyday basis, I think people would understand it.
Yeah, and it seems that Trout is content with things being the way they are, because I know a lot of people feel bad for him, but it's he could easily request a trade, and even now I've been seeing some crazies on Mets Twitter throwing his name out there. I guess since you guys just played the Angels, we should trade for Mike Trout if he becomes available, but I really don't see that happening. I think he's
one. I don't think we would have the room to do it. Even with Owen and all that,
outfield isn't really there's still a luxury tax, and I mean outfield really isn't. Obviously if you can get Mike Trout, you would take him, but outfield isn't even really an issue for you guys.
Yeah, I mean the a lot of the conjecture that I've seen recently is that they would like to upgrade center field, but they don't think it's the most important thing in the world. Which, I would agree with that assessment. McNeil's playing center field much better than anyone would expect him to play, considering he's never played that at the major league level. I don't think he was a center fielder at any point in the minors either. And he's picking this up at age 33 and playing reasonably well. On top of the fact that he's been a pretty important hitter for this team. I think if Tyrone Taylor was hitting the way he did last year, these discussions aren't happening, because he was a league average hitter last year. And for as good of a defender as he is, you take that. Okay, he hits 250. Well, he plays Gold Glove caliber center field. You live with that. He's got an OPS that starts with a 5 right now. That's where it almost becomes is it really worth even for as great as the defense is it worth it if he can't hit at all? And that's where it's been the discussions about Luis Robert or even I've seen Harrison Bader talk, which is weird.
Yeah, Harrison Bader reunion.
Bader basically lost his job down the stretch last year for the same reason. Played great center field, could run the bases, had some pop, but then he just stopped hitting, and Taylor was hitting enough to the point where it's, well, you can't take him out. And that's kind of happening right now with McNeil and Taylor, where it's, okay, well, Beatty's at third, but you got to play Mauricio because he's been hitting. Well, you can't take Jeff McNeil out of the lineup. He plays center field well enough. It's like, if Tyrone Taylor is going to be having an OPS in the fives, like, we got to take the trade-off somewhere.
Yeah, and like you don't even really, and like you don't even have to play. You're not even. It's not. It would be different if like you were. It would be different if you were like stuck playing Tyrone Taylor every day. Then it's probably like, all right, this is more of an urgent. This is more of an urgent area to upgrade right now. But because like Jeff McNeil is like a top 25, top 30 hitter in MLB and has been for like quite some time now. Basically, it kind of mitigates that problem a little bit. And I think, as is it something they could use? Sure, but also I think there are far bigger needs. I think definitely. I think the Mets need need to be in the market like for an ace if they are serious about this. If they're serious about winning this year, they need to get like a true number one starter. I know that's not Stearns's typically not Stearns's MO to like spend big on a picture or like maybe sell off a lot of pieces for one, but I think that's probably one of, if not their biggest need. And then of course everyone needs bullpen arms, but I'd say the Mets definitely need at least one or two more bullpen arms.
Well, the interesting name that's kind of popped up, I would say just in the past 24 hours, that it seems more and more as if this is going to happen, which is very surprising to me because I do not think the Padres are out of it. But apparently Dylan Cease is being floated out there and heavily pursued, and the Mets are one of the teams in the pursuit, which
I heard the Yankees checked in on. I heard the Yankees checked in on them too.
I think both teams could gladly use that.
While you're at it, want to give us Michael King back?
I have some bad news.
We'll give you Trent Grisham back. Actually, no, I don't think we. All jokes aside, I don't think we trade Trent Grisham. But
it's weird though because Dylan Cease is 3-10 with an ERA of 4.5, and even still, I don't feel discouraged by that.
Yeah, I really don't either, and I haven't been following the Padres closely enough to really know what's going on there. I mean, wasn't he was he hurt for part of the year?
I think he might have missed the beginning. He's made 21 starts.
So that's like about that's like about it's about normal.
Yeah, he may have missed a start or two.
Yeah.
But I don't think he's missed a significant chunk.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe the wins-loss record, maybe he's just getting insanely bad luck. And I mean, it's also possible, he's given up 15 home runs on the year. So, a little less than one home run per start.
His whip isn't terrible. It's 1.30, which is a little elevated.
Too bad.
He
probably has. He might just have like some bad. He might have like some bad like BABIP luck.
And I know that the Padres have some decent defense, but I know it's not perfect everywhere. So he could be getting victimized that way.
Yeah, I know that. I know for quite some time they were pretty pissed off with Xander Bogaerts. I think because of his offense and his defense.
I guess the big question would be is if you do make the move for Cease, you're dealing with AJ Preller, and he very rarely gets flat out fleeced in a deal. They're going to want a big haul back, and the Mets farm system is in a position right now to where they can do this kind of trade.
Yeah.
At the same time, I believe this is the end of his rookie contract. So inevitably it becomes okay, how much are we giving up for a potential rental?
He is entering like his walk year, I believe. And you'd have to
30 after the season. So it's do you plan to keep him? Is this just a rental? And if you do want to keep him, what's the number? And how comfortable are you going to feel doing that?
Yeah, and if he is a rental, how much are you realistically giving up? Because it does seem like it seems like there's a lot of every deadline is like, oh, is this a buyer's market or is this a seller's market? This year it's kind of hard to gauge that because I feel like there's not going to be much of a selling market, just with like the way kind of like the way things are with the league now. It's pretty competitively balanced, I would say, to a point where there's really only a handful of teams that are like really truly out of it and really truly would be selling. Like Pirates, Nats, Rockies, and then like I don't know, the White Sox, A's, and the Orioles. But what are the Orioles even really selling off? And I mean, I guess like the Twins and Angels could also sell. Royals maybe.
And as I mentioned on the show recently, if the Mets were going to upgrade the center field position, Byron Buxton would have been my number one target. Byron Buxton does not agree. Anywhere, I should say. He said he's a Twin. So
yeah, Byron Buxton said, "I do not consent."
If Joe Ryan's available, which I can't see why the Twins would do that right now. I think Joe Ryan's only been up for maybe 2 years, so it would be crazy that there's still over 3 years left of team control. And
unless they get like a crazy haul,
it's got to be something where we can't not take this. But if it's anything short of that, it's not as if the window's closing. They're still good enough to be in this.
Yeah, and that might not be, that might not be a move you necessarily want to make. As much as you want to go all in and win it all, like you do have to be responsible. Unless you truly feel like, especially because it's like, year one of like 15 years of Soto, and you still have what, like a good 5 years left on Lindor's contract.
Mm-hmm.
So you still have, still got like a good 5 to 10 year window. So do you really want to, sell the farm, for a couple of months of a week? Or, I mean, you be having him for a few years, but, also bullpen arms are so volatile. Like, do you really want to give up like blue chip prospects for that? And I mean, I always go back.
Not for bullpen help, no.
I always go back and forth on like the prospect hugging versus not prospect hugging debate. Because I don't know. On one hand, like if you feel like you truly have a chance, it's like you gotta go all in. You just gotta go for it. But also, like you have to be. I think you have to do it like responsibly.
And this is also where I don't envy being Stearns right now, because it's we talked about the Dylan Cease thing, which I don't think you just wave that away. But if you're making that deal with the idea of, hey, let's just see what we get from him from here. Maybe we should get rich and strike oil or whatever, and that's it. He's going to be a free agent. We're not comfortable with what he's going to ask for, so then it becomes a rental. And David, let me tell you about the last time the Mets traded for a rental. I don't know if you heard about this. They gave up this guy named Pete Crow Armstrong. Have you heard about him? Have you read about this?
Yeah, I don't know. He must have sucked. So probably ended up being a big deal that he did that.
It is one of those things, and I know we've talked about it plenty, but
yeah,
I look at someone like Dave Dombrowski, and I know this. My friend Tyler, a Tiger fan, always points this out when Dombrowski was the Tigers GM. Was every year it was, well, the Tigers don't have enough prospects to go get A, B, and C. Sure enough, they got A, B, and C, and I don't think one time the Tigers traded a prospect away where it was, oh man, can't believe they did that.
Right.
9 times out of 10, it usually works out that way in most of these. And even if it's someone that's good, like I don't think many Met fans remember that they gave up Michael Fulmer for Cespedes, and Fulmer won AL Rookie of the Year the next year. I don't remember. Nobody's complaining about that deal ever.
No.
Okay, sure. That's the cost I have to pay. Fine.
Yeah, no. Cespedes definitely. He definitely injected something into that 2015 Mets team. They don't get that far without him.
Yeah, you make that deal 100 times out of 100. I even knowing that Alcantara beat Cease today, I think I'm out. He might
You're
not
out
be
on
correct.
Alcantara?
Yeah, I think Sandy might. It might take a year or two for him to get back to where he's the guy we saw in 2023, and even then, I'm not sure. I
Yeah.
thought I was willing to give the first month or two, like, okay, he's getting his feet back underneath him. It's been some time. He's already thrown a ton of innings. His pedigree will eventually get him back. It has not happened, and I think especially if you're a team with
Yeah, the
World Series
later,
design, you can't take that gamble of, well, he'll be all right eventually. You need a certainty, and right now I don't think Sandy is a certainty.
yeah, like the further removed he is, and the longer he's struggling. I know that for a while we were kind of right. I know for a while we were kind of brushing it off and just being kind of like, well, once he gets on like a competent organization, he'll be fine. But it looks like his issues might, they might run a little deeper than that, and there really isn't that guarantee that he will, that he'll ever return back to form of what he was.
He might just be broken.
Yeah, he might be, and it might be a thing that even one of our pitching labs isn't necessarily able to fix.
I do need to pass along because I know we were talking about the weekend and the fun that we had. For those who may not know what they saw underneath my display name at the beginning of the show, Manny Gonzalez, your rap sheet will catch up to you for what you did in the ninth inning on Saturday. I just want that out.
The home plate umpire of the Saturday game against the Reds. He definitely, he had a horse. He really had a horseshit zone all day, but that ninth inning was something else.
I can't understand why people are clamoring for ABS. Everything has to be automated. Counterpoint.
Yeah. My biggest like conspiracy theory in baseball, I think, is that Manfred is like telling the umps to be terrible on purpose so that he can implement the ABS more easily without as much pushback.
Well, there's two ways to look at that. One, if that was true, why did they run out like Angel Hernandez and Joe West and these other, like, those are the guys to carry out the mission, right?
They are, but I guess you can't make it too obvious.
Well, see, now this is true because I feel like with almost every series now, when the series starts and they're like, all right, here's our crew for this series. Here's who's behind the plate tonight. Here's our crew chief. I'm like, I know one guy, kind of.
Yeah.
It's like, I know Laz Diaz is still around. I know CB Buckner is still around. But after that, it's like,
it gets a little.
I know a ton of people left, like, not after COVID, but like right after 2019, it was like a big exodus. And then it's been a little slower, but it's been bigger names since then. Like, obviously, Joe West and Angel Hernandez, I think, were just in the past couple of years. But like, right after 2019, there were a lot of tenured guys that left. And that's why you're seeing all these new crews where it's like, I don't know any of these guys.
Yeah, I don't know any of these guys, and they all stink. Like,
I know people will say the old thing where it's like, well, if you know an umpire's name, that's not good. Which I understand what they mean, but if you watch every single series and you pay close attention, like, you just know these names because they mention it in the first inning. So it's like, oh, I know who Dave Rackley is. Oh, I know who Marvin Hudson is. Like, I hear that name. So
exactly. If you watch the games, they give you the umpire breakdown. Yeah. Eventually, you remember them. Joe West, he was the one who fucked up Galarraga's perfect game, right?
My friend Tyler's about to break through like the Kool-Aid man. That was Jim Joyce.
Jim Joyce, okay, yeah, different name that begins with a J. Okay, yeah. So Joe West, like, I feel like Joe West is like he wasn't even necessarily that bad of an umpire. I feel like his biggest reputation though was like that he'd always get the Yankees Red Sox games, and then they'd always take way too long.
He is when people talk about, when people yell at the umpires, nobody's here to see you. Joe West thinks everybody's there to see him. Legitimately.
Yeah.
My biggest fear is baseball's going to have a rules expert like all these other sports.
God.
And they'll make Joe West the Gene Steratore of that, and I will burn this entire place down.
Yeah,
Believe me.
At that point. Yeah, at that point, might just quit watching baseball, and this podcast might cease to exist. I don't know.
The first time the Mets are an important game, and it's let's go to New York, let's check in with Joe West. I agree with shut the fuck up.
Goodbye. At that point, it's like if I'm either going to the games or not watching them.
I don't know how you do it because my NFL team is mostly on Fox, so I don't have to deal with it. But God bless Jet fans that ever watch a game and there's a replay going and you have to hear Gene Steratore yucking it up while agreeing with it. God, I'd be furious.
Yeah, well, Gene Steratore, he's typically more like the primary, he's typically on like the Jim and Tony broadcasts.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
So like we don't really get a whole lot of those. I mean, or is he just the guy like every broadcast like on CBS goes to like when there's a dispute? Because I feel like I mainly see him when he's with Jim Nantz and Romo.
Because I feel like I know with Fox, Pereira left 3 or 4 years ago, and they made Dean Blandino the guy. And I know when the Bucks are on Fox, if ever there's a replay dispute, we always get Dean Blandino. So I just kind of figured it works the other way on CBS, where they just have one guy for every replay situation. And I don't know what happens if there's 2 replay challenges going on at the same time. I don't know if that's happening.
Yeah. I mean, like I do watch a lot of, I watch a lot of football in general on CBS. I think they do it. They do it that way. But I don't really have too many memories of like him during Jets games. It's more just watching the NFL as a whole, mainly Chiefs Bills games because there's always something.
Yeah.
But
I fear them. Like ESPN started doing that once they got hockey, and Dave Jackson was the same way. Like he was just always, I agree with the officials. I'm like, oh yeah, I bet you do.
Fucking how them boots taste, man.
Oh God, just the worst.
Boots taste. Yeah.
So if MLB thinking that they need to do this, I am. If this gets in the hands of anybody who's watching, please, I'm telling you, don't.
Yeah, just do not. I promise you, like a little dead air will not kill you. We can sit here in silence.
Yeah, if we're just watching the same thing of, I don't know, did the guy's hand come off the base? We can't tell. None of us can.
Well, Joe, it looks like if you zoom in, there is a there's a like they zoom in and you see like the speck of green between like the sidelines. Like, I see a little bit of brown there, about the size of a dingleberry between the base runner's hand and the bag.
I know this is gonna sound like a Johnny Come Lately take, and this also happened twice in the Mets Royals series before the break, but it went in favor of the Mets. So this is how you know I'm being serious when I say this. I've had this take since it was one of the game 5s that the Nationals lost in the division series. But I remember there was one of those things where dude was diving back into first base on a pickoff attempt, and they were doing the whole, did his hand come off? Well, he's sliding through the bag. Of course his hand comes off. And I think I've kind of gotten to a place with replay where we have to have some sort of give for that. If you're sliding into a base and you're going at full speed, natural momentum is going to mean that your hand comes off it is physically impossible for your hand to stay on the bag.
Yeah, and that's
time. We've got to have some leeway for that.
Yeah, and I really don't think that's what we had in mind. When we were implementing replay, it wasn't that was not the purpose of it. The purpose was to get the calls right, which they still don't get the calls right. But that's a whole different discussion.
Reviewing something like that feels more letter of the law than spirit of the law, and the spirit of the law is like you were referring to the Jim Joyce thing. or the infield fly thing, or like the simple obvious stuff that we can see when it happens. Like, okay, they got that wrong. I don't think we ever wanted it to be this. And
Yeah.
I just feel like there's got to be a leeway between the very extreme of, well, no, we'll just never review any stolen base plays, and what they're doing now. There's got to be a middle ground in there somewhere where this, it's like, yeah, if the dude just overslides the base and his hands like completely come off and he's over the bag by 3 feet, yeah, tag him and he's out. That's fine. I also don't think we can keep doing that either. Something just doesn't sit right with me when I see that happen.
Yeah,
even if it's my team, I don't necessarily think that's the best thing.
Yeah, like what that middle ground is though, like, you know, if you're talking about like sliding into second, it's like hard to say like what that middle ground is, or like if you just make that like a judgment call. Like, all right, yeah, like his hand came off for a split second, but he was still in possession. But then it becomes like, you know, like what's a stolen base, like what's a catch in the NFL, and it's like a whole new catch.
And when does that period start?
Yeah, like I don't know if there is like a real like perfect solution to that, but you know, there's got to be something. There's got to be a better way than the way they're doing it right now. I do agree with that.
Also, should note, I know we're kind of spotlighting from the Mets over the weekend. Big break in terms of bullpen help. They got Brooks Raley back, and he's been sharp. Had a 1-2-3 inning on Saturday. I know he pitched today and wasn't as clean today, and I want to say he pitched on Monday night too, but he's been valuable. They needed a legitimate lefty that, I think we were talking about this the last time on the show, like you want to have that lefty where, you know, okay, it's September, we're facing Bryce Harper or we're facing Matt Olson, I need him to get that guy. Yeah,
he can go out and, you know, get that guy, and you know, maybe a couple more outs after that.
And Brooks Raley is I still think they would like to get a second lefty, where I think we talked about this on the last show, where it's, okay, that guy can get me 2 innings. He's not going to be my first lefty choice coming out of the bullpen, but I know he can do a job. I think they still want one more of those. Whereas Brooks Raley could easily pitch the 8th inning and you'd be fine with that.
Yeah, I think both teams should be in the market for lefty relievers. But yeah, the Mets are back in first place, and you know, now they have some real pivotal series coming up, you know, before the deadline against the you know, Giants, Padres, and Giants again, which, you know, could be pretty, you know, could be pretty pivotal as the calendar is, you know, the calendar turns to August and the deadline passes. But, you know, definitely an opportunity ahead for them to stack some wins and, you know, separate themselves from the Phillies a little bit. And this is what we call a transition in the business. But, you know, maybe the Yankees can help them a little bit this weekend, but probably not. Let me be the first to congratulate the Blue Jays on winning the American League East. What can I say? I think it's
that's some excellent petty.
Yeah. I think it's time to just I think it's just time to wave the white flag there, because I don't know. It's only a 4-game deficit, but I'm pretty sure we still have a few games. You know, I'm pretty sure we still have at least one more series against them. So I don't really expect to catch the Blue Jays at this point. You know,
I have to ask, is there a Blue Jay that you just can't stand with this group? Because I remember a few years ago when you guys were close, I know Yankee fans hated Alek Manoah, and obviously he is no longer in the picture. But is there anyone in this group where it's like, that guy?
I mean, definitely still some, you know, definitely still some George Springer hate from like his days on the Astros, you know, and now he's, you know, now we have to see him even more on the Blue Jays. So, and he always fucking kills us. So definitely him. I don't really like Vlad either.
I could see why.
Yeah. Don't love Vlad. I mean, other than that, I mean, yeah, Max Scherzer's not very likable, but he's also, he's kind of the only reason the Yankees. He's the only reason the Yankees actually won a game this series, so I can't hate on him too much. Yeah, aside from that, I mean, I'm pretty neutral on just about everyone. I mean, I don't really like any of their players, but other than that, but I don't really like hate any of them. I'm kind of neutral on Bo Bichette. I mean, I probably lean closer to disliking him than liking him, but kind of just don't care about Bo Bichette. I mean, he has a cool name, but aside from that,
I mean, I feel for him.
He's kind of got a
crazy stalker. That's some wild shit to deal with.
What's that?
He's got a crazy stalker. That's some wild shit to deal with.
Yeah. So I feel a little bad for him in that regard. I remember. Yeah, that stalker on Twitter. Yeah,
who just called herself his wife. Yeah.
Yeah, and then she got on the field at a game and tried to approach him or something. That's crazy. Insane. But so I mean, still rather neutral on him. Addison Barger is kind of just a guy. If there's anyone on the Blue Jays that maybe I kind of like, it might be Addison Barger, but
he's been helped in my dynasty team, so I salute him.
Yeah. But other than that, I guess there isn't really I'm kind of neutral on their manager. I think with a lot of these AL East teams now, the rivalry, it's almost like the Red Sox. There isn't a particular player that I hate the most, but I definitely fucking hate Alex Cora. I don't really like the O's manager either. And I don't like Kevin Cash either. It feels like with a lot of these teams in the AL East, my beef is kind of with their managers. I mean, and I hate
interim Orioles manager
too. What's that?
The interim Orioles manager too?
Oh, I forgot
they fired Brandon Hyde.
Yeah, no, I don't care about the interim, but I hated Brandon Hyde.
No, that's real hate. I like that.
Yeah. But you know what? While we're at it, fuck the interim manager too. But
really good.
But same story, same story, different day, same shit, different asshole with this team. You had another game with 4 errors. You had another 5th inning with multiple errors, which seems to be the Yankees' Achilles heel. Last year it lost us the World Series. This year, it feels like it lost us any shot we had at winning the division. So, and the more I think of it, the trade deadline is a week away. Obviously, the needs that were are the needs that still are. Could definitely use a Eugenio Suarez. And the Diamondbacks have been losing, which does help. I hate to say it, but the Astros actually kind of helped us out by sweeping the Diamondbacks, because that makes it a little more likely they'd be in a selling mindset going into the deadline. But also Eugenio Suarez is not cooling down. He doesn't stop hitting home runs. So, his price is probably only going up, and it's what do you really want to give up for? What do you really want to give up for a 2-month rental of Eugenio Suarez? I do think that Eugenio Suarez, and I was actually having this discussion with my friend Mo. We were recording our Jets podcast last night, and before we started, we were talking, because he's a Yankee fan too. So we were talking a little bit of baseball, and we were kind of talking if you could only do one. You can't do both, but if you could do only one or the other, would you rather trade for a third baseman or for a relief pitcher? And I said, give me the third baseman, because I feel like Eugenio Suarez does move the needle for our team more than any bullpen arm is going to at this point. But also what are you willing to give? What are you really willing to give up for 2 months or 3 months of Eugenio Suarez? I think it would be, I think that trading Spencer Jones or Cam Schlittler would be extremely stupid. Spencer Jones looks like, he looks like the real deal. He's probably, I think we're probably still another year from him. I think Yankees are going to ride it out this year with Judge, Grisham, Bellinger, and Dominguez in the outfield. They got four one Hall of Famer, another pretty damn good one, and Dominguez shows a lot of promise at times, and Grisham's having a career year and a contract year. But Grisham will walk at the end of the year, and then I think that kind of will open up the logjam for Spencer Jones to come up. But I wouldn't expect to see him this year. But I think it would be extremely stupid to trade him unless you're getting someone like a Jose Ramirez, which I don't think is happening. I also think it would be very stupid to trade Cam Schlittler. Like young pitchers that just throw gas and can control it the way he does don't grow on trees. And I wouldn't give that up for a couple of months of Eugenio Suarez. And
Plus,
I don't
we've already
know.
seen Schlittler do it at the major league level. You have proof that, hey, this works. He can do it.
Yeah. Albeit it's only been 2 starts, but the sample size might not be there, but he's one of those players where he's absolutely passing the eye test. I would say he's even acing the eye test. So
Yeah,
I don't know what
Spencer Jones right now, for as much as we project ahead, it's all still theoretical because he's not up yet. Schlittler, even if it's small, hey, look, he's been up here for a couple of starts and he hasn't looked overwhelmed. You can mold that. You can grow that. And you can add velocity to him. You can teach him a couple new pitches. You can work on him.
Yeah.
But at the very least, this is a competent major league pitcher at the very beginning of his career. That's important.
Right. Yeah. And I'm not giving up George Lombard either. So,
No.
I don't know. I don't really know what the Diamondbacks asking price is, but I think that maybe there's some sort of middle ground where we give up maybe like a top 10, top 10 to top 15 prospect, but it's someone that maybe we have like a surplus at, so it doesn't really break our it doesn't really break our bank as far as our prospect pool goes. But and maybe I'd feel differently if I felt like we were Eugenio Suarez away from being a legitimate World Series contender or favorite to win the World Series. But right now with this team, it's really just I feel like there's no acquisition that they can make at the deadline that's just going to fix this lackadaisical, terrible fundamental brand of baseball that they've played pretty much for the entirety of Boone's tenure. So if you could get Eugenio Suarez, great. But I'm not really in a, if I'm running the ship, if I'm running the ship, I'm firing Aaron Boone, but I'm not, I'm not really in a mindset of I have to, be, I'm not in the mindset of I'm selling the farm. No one's untouchable. Obviously no one's untouchable for the right deal, but yeah, I'm not selling the farm for a few months of Eugenio Suarez. And I think that here right now, he's probably the player on the market that moves the needle for the most of us towards being closer to a legitimate team, a team that could legitimately win a World Series.
Well, and the flip side to that is 2 things. Is one, we talk about the price right now, but Arizona holds all the leverage here because they're not going to re-sign him. He's having a monster year, but they're out of it. He just turned 34, so they can really ask teams that are close, okay, how bad do you really want this? How much are you willing to push? And if, like you said, if you're the Yankees, you don't think you're a Eugenio Suarez away from winning it. And the other part of that is, we touched at the beginning of this segment, is the way the defense is being played right now and the problems that are going on throughout the team. Yeah, you're plugging Eugenio Suarez's bat into this lineup, and that's a huge plus, and the Yankees desperately need that. But at the same time, no one's ever confused Eugenio Suarez for Adrian Beltre. So
Right.
it'd be almost like, yeah, you're getting that bat, but you're almost compounding the defensive issues on the infield, especially on that left side, which has been such a huge problem lately.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean, as much as I want Eugenio Suarez, if we give up someone like, if we do give up like a blue chip piece for him, then at that point I'm saying there better be more moves to come, and it better work basically.
Also, I should point out, and this isn't an original thought or take, but I did see this on Twitter recently. He just recently crossed the 300 career home run mark. He just turned 34 last week. Someone said what he should do is he's going to be a free agent, sign a 7-year deal with the Rockies, just completely sell out for 500 home runs, and finesse your way into the most infamous Hall of Fame appearance of all time. Because everyone would be like, 500 home runs is 500 home runs, but like we watched them, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Honestly, yeah. If Eugenio Suarez just did that, that would honestly be pretty based. I couldn't even be mad.
He's like, I thought I made it pretty obvious when I signed that contract up what I was doing.
Yeah, and like
Now
I
we're the
don't think
problem?
and like I don't really think the Diamondbacks necessarily. I mean, sure they'd like to get something for him, but like I would say they do hold the leverage because like they probably don't necessarily care if like he just walks at the end of the year and they
Yeah.
lose him for nothing. It's not like he's this you know, it's not like he's like if he was 27 years old and he was about to walk, it would
Yeah.
there would be a different story. But he's 34, so I think they'd probably be content with just like, all right, whatever. Like if we don't get the offer we want, we'll just hold on to him, and
They might,
then you can have fun fighting over him on the open market
they
and
might
not
actually
have room
have
for
a
your playoff run
replacement.
this year.
They might actually already have a replacement ready to go because they have Geraldo Perdomo at short, and he's actually turned
Yeah,
into a decent player. But
yeah.
the plan
I
had
think he
been
can
for a
play
couple.
third too.
Well, the plan had been for a couple of years that Jordan Lawler was just going to be the guy. He had been a top 5 prospect in all of baseball for a while, and everyone just assumed he was going to be the guy at shortstop, and Perdomo was just this holdover. Like, okay, he can handle shortstop until Lawler gets here. And Lawler's either struggled or he's had bad injuries. I think they just called him back up, but I do know
Yeah.
he's played a lot of third base in the minors. So if Arizona's just comfortable with Perdomo being the long-term shortstop, it's, hey, we still think the world of Jordan Lawler. We don't have to worry about third base. If we really think he's that guy, well, let's just address this need that we now have. We'll just put the kid over there. Boom, there's the left side of our infield for
Yeah.
7-8 years.
Yeah, so they're kind of in a spot where it's not even like they're urgently searching for like Suarez's replacement. So like they probably are fine with writing it out. So, I'm not sure exactly what their asking price is. I know that the Yankees have been like, consistently in contact with the Diamondbacks about him and trying to make a deal happen, I guess, but it seems like right now it's more so just flyers and just talking hypotheticals, and I'm sure those talks will heat up this week, especially if the Diamondbacks do continue to lose. I just don't know, like, and a lot of times too, like when there's like that one guy that is like linked constantly to a team, and then they end up not going there, or like they either end up like going somewhere else or not getting traded at all. So I don't know. I have this weird feeling. I would still say, like, if you put a gun to my head and ask me, like, is Eugenio Suarez like going to be a Yankee by 4 p.m. next Thursday? I'd probably say yes, but yeah, right now I don't know exactly what that looks like, and depending what it looks like, I'm not sure. I'm not sure if it's the right move. If they're given, depending on what they're giving up. Now I have heard you did mention to me that they've also discussed Ryan McMahon. I know that they've also been in contact with the Pirates, and the names that were mentioned there have been Bednar, Dennis Santana, Mitch Keller, and and Ke'Bryan Hayes. I want no part of Ke'Bryan Hayes. Even I don't care if he got a couple hits the other night.
Well, now let's hold on there. Do you want to fix the defense?
Oh man, you're killing me. I do, but like Ke'Bryan Hayes, it's also like, but like we have Ke'Bryan Hayes at home. We have Oswaldo Peraza at third. Our third base defense isn't really the problem. It's like Volpe and like everybody else right now.
All right.
Ben Rice had an error, but today too. But I mean, you're not going to take his bat out of the lineup. Cody lost the ball in the outfield, but it kind of seemed like, I don't know, the roof was open. It seemed like he lost it in the sun, or maybe his eyes were just too bloodshot from smoking too much. I don't know.
It's legal up there, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. And then, I mean, Dominguez was really never. Dominguez was really never known for his defense. But also with like fixing the defense, I don't think it's a matter of, I mean, if Ke'Bryan Hayes is like if we get Eugenio Suarez and then like we get Ke'Bryan Hayes, like, in like a package deal where we're trading for like Keller or like Dennis Santana, I don't want Bednar. Definitely don't want Bednar, but because I think Bednar is like, I think he's the classic like fell for it again award type of reliever.
Oh,
yeah. Okay. Like I feel like he's the type of reliever. He's been pitching well lately, but I feel like as soon as he gets traded, he's gonna go back to being the shitty Bednar, and it's just gonna be like Clay Holmes all over again.
I cannot comment on Clay Holmes at the moment.
Yeah, he's got to go up against. I saw he's got to go up against Logan Webb in a couple of days.
Actually, to be fair, Holmes didn't pitch that bad on Saturday. His defense fucked him. That was
his defense. His defense did fuck him, and that kind of did. That kind of cut his day a little shorter than maybe it could have been.
Yeah, he should have had at least 6.
Yeah. Yeah,
but it's just
all things being fair.
Yeah, it's frustrating that out of that rotation right now, there's one guy that will give you 6, and then everyone else and just don't burn the bullpens, or hopefully we get a big enough lead where we could just use the B bullpen. But
yeah,
anyway,
yeah, IKF was another name mentioned that the Yankees have been in contact about. I've seen that movie before. Really don't need to see it again.
I do want to ask you, because I've seen Kevin Lewis float this in the Discord, and he's been more of a, if he's not starting every single day, that's fine. Like, because for what the idea of IKF is supposed to be, if that's your backup, you can live with that. But if you need him taking 4 at-bats every single day, that's not worth it at all.
It's not. It would be a lot. It would be a lot more ideal if he was a bench piece. I guess that could be, there could be some value in that. Like, that's pretty much what IKF is. He's just like, he's a good bench player for a good team. I think that the Pirates are pretty much dealing with the 2022 Yankees IKF experience now, except like every other player in the lineup is like basically also IKF with the exception of like O'Neal Cruz. So, that's kind of, they got their own, obviously they have their whole own set of problems, and, that's amongst them. So, I mean, yeah, that could work if he's like your defensive substitution or like a bench piece, or, someone gets hurt, he can fill in. But I don't know. I think I just have like too much PTSD from the last time we had him. Like, I don't really have any. I don't really like. I think I said at the time, like, I really never want to see IKF in a Yankee uniform again once he was gone. And even though he kind of had some good moments with like the Blue Jays, and he's kind of he's done some nice things for the Pirates from time to time too. I don't really know if I need to see him. But I mean, if him or Ke'Bryan Hayes is like kind of like added on, like, hey, we'll give you Mitch Keller and whoever, we'll give you Mitch Keller and Dennis Santana, but you need to like eat Key Brian Hayes' contract or something, because they signed him to like a big deal like a few years ago. Not like a big deal, but like they signed him to like an 8-year deal. So they're like, hey, we want to get Key Brian Hayes' money off the book because he's definitely not lived up to it. Then, I think we could live with doing that for him as like a bench player, like a defensive substitution.
If the deadline ultimately becomes, say, Mitch Keller and a non-Pirate, like, none of Santana or Bednar, because I know that's the names that we've been discussing here. But if it was Mitch Keller and, say, a B grade setup man, would you be happy with that? If that's all they came away with.
If that's all they came away with, yeah, I could live with that, because I mean, it improves the team. I think the ultimate question is, at the end of the day, is what you're giving up for them. If we're giving up like Spencer Jones or like George Lombard for them, then I'm not terribly, I wouldn't be terribly thrilled. You'd have to really sell me on that, because I think that Mitch Keller would definitely shore up our rotation, especially going into the playoffs. And obviously, the more bullpen arms you have to shorten the game as much as you can to get to Devin Williams, who, credit to Devin Williams. I know that, myself included, amongst many other Yankee fans, have really been giving him shit since day one. He came in, was a little shaky at the beginning of the year, and everyone's like, oh, this is the fucking guy we changed the facial hair rule for. But he's really been, like since then, he's really been lights out, and he's really been nails. And he's, by far been our best reliever for the past couple of months, especially once Luke Weaver kind of came back down to earth. So credit to Devin Williams, but yeah, the more relievers, just like with the Mets, with it's the journey to get to Diaz in the ninth, to get to the trumpets. Devin Williams doesn't have trumpets, but the smoother you can make that journey, the better. I do think we're at a point too where I know this is probably a non-starter, and it's for the Yankees, and it's probably not even worth discussing. But I think if you're serious about contending this year, I do think that trading for a shortstop has to be, I think trading for a shortstop has to be on the table. But that just doesn't seem like it's even. That just doesn't seem like it's even like on the radar, or even something they're going to entertain doing. So I don't know how much time it's really worth dedicating talking about it.
I think that might be something that is probably being discussed in meetings, but it's one of those things that you can't even really float publicly right now, because
they don't want that if that is being discussed, they don't want it getting out for sure.
Yeah, because it's like
everything they've been saying
already messed up. Like, you really want that out there?
Yeah, Volpe's already messed up. Yeah, he's already like leading the league in errors. He can't hit a beach ball right now. So, I mean, he gets the occasional home run here and there, but like aside from that, like he's pretty much an automatic out. Like he's just not really looking like a major league. He's not really looking like a major league contributor right now. And he was someone that obviously the organization had very high hopes for. And, Cashman went to bat, and he kind of had like this like clash with the he had like a clash with the media over the offseason, where he basically was like, oh, like we know how good Volpe's going to be. Like, you guys don't know shit, basically. And, after this season, you'll be coming to me saying, hey, you were right about Volpe. And, looks like he was pretty wrong about Volpe. So if there is any discussion of possibly trading for a shortstop to replace him, which I don't even really know what shortstops would really even be on the market. So if there are those discussions, that's definitely not something that they want out there. But I think if you're trying to be serious about, if you're trying to be serious about getting back to the World Series and possibly winning it, I think that shortstop is another position that definitely needs to be addressed. If not at the trade deadline, I think that's something they definitely have to look at in the offseason, as a bridge, at least get like a bridge guy to Lombard.
I was going to say, because you can't even bet on the idea of, we'll just wait till Lombard gets here. You don't know for certain. Like, he could have a random injury tomorrow that stunts his progress. You don't know.
Yeah, and like,
if you get a more than adequate major league shortstop to come in and play for 2 years while he develops, and then it comes to that time where,
Lombard's ready to go.
Guess what? You can move him.
Yeah, Lombard's still only like 20 years old, so there's still a couple of he's still a couple of years away. So yeah, I think I think they're kind of in a situation where they're probably just stuck with Volpe, at least for the rest of this year, unfortunately. And maybe that's something they address. Maybe that's something they address in the off season, but it's something they should really consider addressing now if they really want to salvage this. So, I mean,
there's not even one part of his game where it's like, all right, well, at least the defense is strong, or it's okay, well, at least he's making contact consistently. You can coach power into a guy. We've seen that plenty in the past 10 years. I just don't think that there's anything right now where it's like, all right, well, it's worth giving him another year.
There's really not much. There's really not much to work with there. So
no,
it was a nice idea. It was a nice story, but unfortunately, the Anthony Volpe experiment did not work out. We missed out on a lot of good shortstops in the process of waiting for him, such as Corey Seager, such as Trey Turner, et cetera, et cetera. But nothing you can really do. But yeah, we are a few minutes away from midnight on the East Coast here. So it's about to be July 24th, 2025. It'll probably be July 24th by the time your eyes are laying upon this beautiful podcast here. So we're a week away. We kind of talked right just now about who we want to add, but I guess what do you think? What do you think the Mets? What do you think the deadline actually looks like for the Mets?
I definitely think there's going to be relief help. We talked about Brooks Raley coming back, and right now the A bullpen is obviously Diaz closes, and then setting him up right now it's Brooks Raley, who just came back. You have Garrett and Brazoban, who are been pretty well used at this point, so you really don't know what you're going to get from them down the stretch here. I don't know how much you can rely on Ryan Stanek at this point, but I think back to last year, and they kind of overhauled their bullpen at the deadline. They went out, they got Phil Maton on July 10th last year. I'm surprised that a deal like that hasn't already happened, and didn't really give up a whole lot for him. They got Brazoban at the deadline. They got Stanek at the deadline as well. Now, Brazoban didn't work out for them last year, but I think I said right after the season, they don't get to the playoffs without Phil Maton pitching all those innings in September, and they don't make the run that they do in the playoffs without Ryan Stanek pitching some big innings. So I think they need to continue to increase their bullpen depth, whether that's I've seen Griffin Jacks get floated out there, which I know he's nicely recovered. Whether it's one of the Pittsburgh guys, I'd be fine with that either way. But I think especially given the fact that I just mentioned, there's basically one guy in this rotation right now that every single time will give you 6 innings, and that's David Peterson. I think Kodai Senga is going to get back there. I think he's working himself back into that kind of shape. I think Sean Manaea is working his way back into that right now too. I think you might need another 2 or 3 starts before he's in that place again. But right now, I mean, I've been saying it all year. I think I've been saying it since mid-April that this bullpen's very quickly gotten overworked because you're not getting the length out of your starters that you hoped that you were getting. And we saw how good they were in the first 2 months. Well, now it's caught up with them. And in a division right now that you're leading by half a game, every single one of those games counts. And I just don't think it's conducive for this team to go and win the division if you're doing this shuffling thing where, Kevin Herget threw 2 innings the other night to keep us in the game. Well, guess what? You're in AAA. We're going to call Dickie Lovelady back up. Or, we're bringing Rayleigh up. Nope. We're going to send Austin Warren back down. Nope. Austin Warren, you're back up 4 days late. I just don't think that's a healthy way to try to manage your bullpen when you're in a pennant race.
Yeah. No,
as far as
I
another
agree.
starter, I think they're just kind of banking on Senga and Minaya eventually getting back to their usual length. And then between those two and David Peterson, those are 3 all-star caliber starters. Would you want more out of Clay Holmes? Sure. Would you like all 5 starters to go 6 innings? Yeah, but if you have, we saw Sean Manaea do it in the playoffs last year. We saw Kodai Senga's not afraid to take the ball in a big spot last year in the playoffs, and we saw David Peterson in multiple big spots last year handle himself. So that's your 3. That's your top 3 for your playoff rotation right there. So I don't think they're worried about going and getting a starter. I think if a center field bat became available, for the right price, I think maybe they would try and go and get a Luis Robert. I don't think it's priority 1 for them, though.
Yeah, and I don't think you really want to give up too much for him. Maybe maybe someone like a Cedric Mullins becomes available.
And even then, I saw that Mullins' defensive numbers are among the worst in baseball. And if there's one thing we know about David Stearns, he values his outfield defense. So
yeah,
especially in center. So that to me says that's a non-starter right there.
Yeah, it's hard to really gauge what direction they'll go in. I ultimately don't really think the Mets trade for I don't think the Mets trade for an outfielder, but I do think that I do think they get some pitching help. I could definitely see them. Maybe there's possibly a Seth Lugo reunion on the horizon.
I wouldn't hate that.
Maybe Joe Ryan. And I think they also maybe they do a package of like Joe Ryan and John Duran. I feel like the Twins would probably feel that would probably cost a lot.
I was gonna say that would probably be Jet Williams and Gilbert and Clifford.
Yeah,
and one of the big pitching names at the minimum.
that would be rough. But I do think they get pitching help. I think they the very least add a reliever or 2 and maybe a starter. For the Yankees, I do think ultimately they find a way to get Eugenio without breaking, without parting ways with, any of the players that I deem to be untouchable. I'm cautiously optimistic they get that deal done, even though like the closer it gets, like there's like the settling feeling that it won't get done. There's a lot of Yankee fans on Twitter being like, "Oh, as soon as we get Eugenio Suarez, he's going to hit like 5 home runs for the rest of the year." And I don't really subscribe to that too much. I think that
I saw this in the Discord over the past couple of days where it's like, oh, well, look where he's playing and look at the type of home runs. And it's like, he's hitting these in Arizona and they are not cheap.
No.
Those would go anywhere.
As much of a hitter's park as Arizona is, he's not hitting cheap. He's not hitting cheap home runs. And I think if you add him to the heart of, Bellinger, Judge, and Stanton when he plays, and Ben Rice when he's on his shit.
He did this in Seattle too. Like he
he kind of just does it everywhere he goes. I mean, since he's obviously another pretty friendly hitter friendly park, but he always just has hit nukes that it doesn't really matter where he's at. So I do think they get a deal done there. I do think they get Mitch Keller, and I think they get What's that?
I think that would be great for you guys with Mitch Keller. I think he's going to be another one of those guys where the traditionalists look at the record and go, "What's this?" But I think anyone that's watched the Pirates for 5 minutes will tell you, that's not his fault.
No. So I think we get Mitch Keller. I do think we trade for a reliever, but I don't think it's necessarily like one of the elite relievers. I don't expect the Guardians to move Clase. I think there's a lot of smoke there, but I think the Guardians just kind of stand pat at the deadline. I don't think the Twins will necessarily do business with us. So, I don't think we'll get like Jax or Duran or anyone like that. But I think that we end up with like maybe Suarez, Mitch Keller, and then for the bullpen, I would say like maybe a lower tier, like a tier below that. Maybe like they end up with like a Ryan Helsley, or perhaps like Reed Detmers, or like someone kind of in that tier. Although, I would say maybe Reed Detmers, just because like it's kind of hard to gauge. So it's a little hard to gauge exactly what the Cardinals are going to do too. I mean, they're still a game over 500.
You could always look at one of the Marlins relievers, because I feel like even if the Marlins are like top 5 pick bid, they always have a bullpen. Like they weren't good last year, and they still had Tanner Scott sitting there. They still had Brazaban sitting there. So, so sometimes it doesn't hurt looking there. Like even the teams that are genuinely bad usually have something of value. More often than not, it's the relievers, because those are the easiest ones to get. Right.
Yeah. So maybe there's a world where maybe there's a world where we hit up Miami and get a reliever, not necessarily like not necessarily one of their starters, but maybe one of their higher end relievers, and that can kind of help shorten the game for us a little bit.
I would say, though, I would avoid getting someone named Jansen Junk at all costs. That is nominative determinism staring you right in the face, saying, no,
at least if we get him, he wouldn't have a name on his jersey, so you could maybe block it out, like that the guy on the mound is literal junk.
It's like Grant Balfour used to be like a high leverage guy, and it's like, man, how do you feel good about, I'm going to the bullpen, get me ball 4? Like,
give me Ed Belfour.
I'd be terrified.
Ed Belfour and Jansen Junk. Pick your poison. All right, we got two topics left for tonight. Getting away from the trade deadline talk, but in honor of our David Wright meetup, we are doing some number retirement David Wright stuff. So first is your favorite David Wright memory. So I guess I can go first. I was at the ceremony, watched the replay, the tribute video or whatnot. For me, as not a Mets fan, I mean, I always enjoyed watching David Wright play, because he always just went out there and, that when he said like, I left it all out on the line for the Mets, like, I think that he truly means that with like all sincerity. I don't think anybody doubts how much he means that, and I always enjoyed just the way he played and just watching him as a whole. And like I was trying to think of a time where like maybe he like helped the Yankees or something like that, but I couldn't really think of a particular time where he would have necessarily done that. So my memory that I'm going to go with is the barehanded catch that he made in Petco Park. Just because,
pretty good.
Just because that was like a sick play, and I feel like it kind of epitomizes like what he was about for his whole career.
That's pretty good. Because I think people kind of forget how good of a defender he was. Like, obviously the bat's what's always going to sell, and he played at a third base at a time where you had Chipper Jones and you had Scott Rowland still. To me, it's from the 2015 season, and a lot of people will look at the home run that he hit in Philly, coming back from the spinal stenosis, which I've been reading his autobiography over the past 2 weeks. It really is amazing when you hear that, he has to do all this work before each game to get himself in the physical condition to go play. Never mind all the work that went on in rehab every day, where he's like, the worst part of it was like just doing stuff that wasn't baseball stuff. I felt like I was an old person just trying to stay healthy. I wasn't like actually getting ready to play baseball. People point to the Philadelphia home run, and obviously I get why. I mean, especially when you realize like the physical pain that he was in, to be able to do that after not playing for 3-4 months. But to me, it's a couple weeks later. They go to Washington on Labor Day, and I think they were either 3 or 3.5 up on Washington at this point. And this was basically either the Mets are going to put the Nationals away or the Nationals are going to bring this thing right to the wire. And they win the first game in that series 8-5, and he scores the run that concludes the scoring in that game. He scores all the way from first on a double, and he has this big fist pump after he just barely beats the relay throw home. And to me in that moment, that's him going, this is why I did all the rehab. This is why I didn't just go home when they told me I had spinal stenosis. I came back to do this one more time because it just seemed like the world was going to be on a tee for him, you know, when they broke through in 2006 and they won the East. And then that didn't happen. And there were a lot of years where he was great and this team wasn't. And then finally, it looks like they're turning the corner again, and he has this debilitating injury that ultimately cuts his career short. And he emphasized so much about putting in hard work and, you know, not cheating himself, and knowing that he wanted to know that when things ended, hey, there was nothing else I could have done before I stopped. And he busted his ass all that time by himself to do the work, to be even able to go out and play rehab games. And he comes back, and it's a big game, and they end up winning that game. They end up sweeping that series, and that was pretty much the end of the NL East race that year. And him having that big emotional moment at home plate, like that's him going, this is why I did all that. I didn't think I was ever going to have this shot again. I'm here, and we're going to go do this. And it set the stage for everything else that followed. And that's what I'll think of, is him being grateful to be in one more race, not knowing if he was going to be guaranteed anything else in his career, but making the most of it right there.
It's like, I did all this to get us to this point, like to even have like be in a discussion to be making the playoffs and have the chance to go on a run.
This team kept it together, and I got to come back, and I'm going to help you guys, and we're going to go finish this. And then they did.
Yeah, no, that ceremony, it was very, you know, as not a Mets fan, if there was one word I could use to like describe the ceremony, it would just be real.
It was a lot because, and I tell people this, Monday was the 21st anniversary of his first game. That was a couple weeks before I started my senior year of high school, and this kind of hit more even than Piazza getting his number retired, because that was right as I really started paying attention to the Mets. And Piazza already was a star somewhere else. David Wright is the first number up there out of all these that was a career Met.
Only wore one uniform.
And, you know, I told people, I remember going to watch, you know, we used to have minor league baseball here where I live. And I remember seeing him when he was coming up, when he was spending the year with St. Lucie. And it was, hey, this kid was a first-round pick. He's finally supposed to be the answer at third base that we've never had. I remember watching him then. I remember seeing him at spring training when he was about to break through. Then I saw when he was the face of the franchise. And then it was, he's the guy answering all the questions after the collapses. And then he's the guy that's still carrying the team even when the team's not good. And then there it's like I saw every phase of his career.
He's the guy who's making anonymous players on the Mets apologize to members of the media for blowing them off.
Maybe Noah from Texas too, but by the way, anybody want to go check the Charlotte Knights box score tonight?
Yeah. Bless you though.
Yeah. That was a long one.
Yeah.
But you know, I've seen every phase of his career as a Met, and there it is. Like, now there's definitive proof of, yes, you are one of the 10 greatest players in the history of this franchise. Like, that's proof. There's 10 of those up there, and he's one of them. And that's why I thought I was going to be a puddle. And it, like, all of it was like right here on Saturday. It was like, it's not only like, wow, this is the punctuation of his career, but it's also like, yeah, shit, man, you just watched 20 years go by. That was a lot.
There was a little bit. I feel like the seats where you like met me and Justin at. There was like a little bit of a catch-22 with them. So like on one hand, and I didn't even really think of this when we bought them. I was just thinking, man, I want to buy like tickets in the 100s, even if like I have to spend a little extra because I just don't feel like walking all the way up to the 500s. The game we went to. The game, not to act like bougie or anything, but the game we went to, the Subway Series game that we went to a couple of weeks before that, I went with Justin and some of his friends. We sat like all the way up in the 500s, like on the first base side. Like I was getting cooked by the sun, had to walk all that way up. It was just miserable. I was like, I just want to be on like the lower bowl. So I didn't even realize it like when I got the seats. But on one hand, like when David Wright came out, like we had a pretty good view of him like walking to third base and what have you. But then like we also could not see the like where the actual numbers were at all because that's like right above us.
So our group, we learned that lesson last year. Our group, we went to the strawberry thing and we were in the mezzanine in the 300s. So we just had to watch the video board when they unveiled his.
Yeah,
so when we were putting this together, it's like, let's make sure we're on the first base side so we can we need to see this.
Yeah,
so,
yeah. I was looking, like I tried looking up and then I was like, yeah, no, just turn around. Why don't you just turn around and look at that video board? But yeah, David Wright, number 10, the 10th number retired in Mets history. Who's going to be number 11?
Well, so fun little thing here about this because this setup's been added on to over the year. So I bought this from a seller on eBay. Anybody that wants to know where to get these things, because Chris has the same thing at his place there.
Yeah,
great seller. Always was in contact with him. But anyway, so when I bought this in December, they hadn't announced it yet, and they included. There's two numbers that we're going to add that are future-proof because we basically know they're going to go up. And 5 was one of them. The other one was 8, and that's for Gary Carter. And this is interesting because in recent years, since Steve Cohen's taken over, I've mentioned this on the show before, they've kind of taken care of the back catalog where, yeah, we probably should have Jerry Koosman retired. We should have Keith and Doc and Daryl, and all that got taken care of. Gary Carter very much has a right to have, obviously, God rest his soul. Funny enough, I actually met Gary Carter while working for Florida Tech baseball because he was coaching a school that is now in our conference. That was his job before he had his brain tumor. So I actually met him on multiple occasions. But he's a Hall of Famer, member of the 86 team, which is the greatest and most beloved team in franchise history.
Yeah.
And also, and I looked this up, no Met has worn number 8 since 2001. That was Desi Rutherford, by the way. So that makes you think they've had this number out of circulation for almost a quarter century. The guy's in the Hall of Fame. He is on the short list of the greatest catchers of all time. He and Keith were the first captains. They were co-captains, and they were the first in Mets history. He was considered a leader of that 86 team. I got to think at some point 8 goes up there, if nothing else, to secure that legacy, because it's not just that he was a Hall of Famer who happened to play for the Mets. He was a Hall of Famer who was great for the Mets and is responsible for one of the 2 World Series. Would not surprise me if that happens in the next couple of years.
Yeah, it wasn't like he was a Hall of Famer who like joined the Mets like past his prime. Like he spent those prime years with the Mets, delivered a championship. So that makes a lot of sense. Not sure why it hasn't happened already, but I guess you can blame the Wilpons for that.
By the way, Howie Rose, the realest of ones for doing that on Saturday.
Yeah, chef's kiss with the old laugh. He did a great job with the ceremony. Let me ask you this: do you think that because I mean, Jose Reyes was at the he was at the ceremony, and I think he got probably the loudest ovation out of anyone.
I think.
Yeah, out of anyone that was there. And Daniel Murphy got a pretty good one, too.
Oh, yeah.
Do you think that I think you said he had made like one or two other like appearances at Mets related events or something before that. But do you think that maybe that bridge is being mended, and do you think like that opens it up for his number to be one day retired?
I mean, I do think the bridge is being mended, and I think Reyes is kind of realized at the end of his career, and I think he kind of knew it once he came back here, that this was the one fan base he played for that will always absolutely love him. Um, that's going to be complicated because
Yeah.
we all know the reason that he came back for that second tour was because he was on a minimum salary and we were owned by who we were owned by at the time.
Yeah.
Because he'd gotten cut for domestic violence, and that's always going to be tough to reckon.
Yeah. It
I
doesn't.
don't. I know it's not as big a deal to a lot of Met fans. It still kind of hurts me that I know the Mets didn't offer him when he left in 2011, and hey, there's nothing that can be done there. But the fact that the Marlins were kind of motivated by him to end the 07 and 08 seasons and like publicly said that.
Yeah.
And then he went to them. I know they traded him after 1 year. I know. But that's always bothered me to some degree. And it wouldn't surprise me if 7 goes up one day, because I think they would also do it as, hey, we're going to honor Ed Kranepool too, who's, we mentioned this last year on the show when he passed, still in a lot of the franchise top 10s, an original Met who was there for 17 years, which I think is still the record in franchise history in terms of how long someone was affiliated. So you could do it that way too.
Yeah.
I don't know if that would happen right away, but I don't think there's a 0% chance that
maybe
happens.
they're maybe they're waiting to see how Brett Beatty's career plays out. I mean, maybe it'll be for him too.
Hey, it looked better than it did 2 months ago. I know that.
Yeah, his I would say his stock has definitely risen. I remember at
I think Beltran, when he goes into the Hall, I've said here on the show before, when he goes in the Hall, he's going in as a Met.
Yeah.
And people are going to have to reconcile that. I think 15 goes up. I think 48 will eventually go up. I mean, there are a lot of Met fans that are like, you sure the Rangers wouldn't just trade Jake back? I think people were upset at him because they never wanted him to leave. I don't think they were genuinely mad at him. I think they were mad.
That's usually the case when you lose a player like that. It's just because you if you didn't want to lose them, you wouldn't.
It wouldn't generate that.
Yeah, you wouldn't be acting that way because you just wouldn't care. You wouldn't even.
And then there's 3 guys right now that are on this team that I think are going to be on there eventually too. But
yeah,
there's a long way to go with all of them. So
still a ways to go. So I feel like Gary Carter is like probably the next most logical answer there. For the Yankees, I think the answer is pretty obvious. There's a lot of of course there's always a lot of controversy surrounding like Yankees retired numbers because they've retired so many numbers, and people say like, do all these players really deserve to have their numbers retired or whatever the deal is? And I think you can make a case for, like the 22 numbers that they have retired. I think there's a case for, some of them are no-brainers, and, I think there's a case for almost all of them. But to me, I think the obvious choice to be the next one and to be the highest retired number in Yankees history when it does happen is one Karsten Charles Sabathia. I think this is the obvious. I think it's the obvious choice. He's going into the Hall of Fame this year. I don't know if it's been announced yet, but I would be shocked if he doesn't go in as a Yankee. I know he started. I know he started his career with Cleveland, and he had he had some great years with them, and I know that he I know that he still he still has like a lot of love for Cleveland. And I'm sure he even has some love for Milwaukee for the couple of months he was there, but he got his ring with the Yankees. And he's kind of made like a brand for himself in New York. And then ultimately it's where he got his ring, and he had the majority of his career at the end of the day was with the Yankees, and he also had like the most he had the most all-star appearances with the Yankees. He won his Cy
big
Young
moments with the Yankees too. It should
Cleveland,
be noted.
Yeah, a lot of big moments, and could have been many more. If not for injury. And it's kind of wild. He pitched till he was 39. He literally pitched until he couldn't anymore. He's another, he's another player like a David Wright, where he's like the pitcher version of David Wright, where he leaves it all out there. He obviously had his demons that he battled too throughout his career, like personal demons with drinking and stuff like that. And he came out on the better end of it, and came out a better person for it. And he was the one who said, like, yeah, I gotta step away. Like, I need to get this fixed so I can be like the best version of myself. So, and that takes a lot of balls to do, like hours before you're supposed to start in the game too.
And standing tall for the big fellas like us, because every time he got a little bit skinny, his numbers plummeted. It was very obvious. He had to be that big, and I appreciate that.
Yeah, no, he needed that he needed that meat on his bones to be the most effective version of himself. I
gotta eat the cereal. What do you want me to do?
Yeah, I think it makes too much sense. I think they're basically just waiting for him to go into the Hall of Fame and go in as a Yankee. I would expect his number to get retired either next year or at the latest the year after. And whenever that game ends up being, I will be there.
I gotta say, and probably it would be interesting to ask Yankee fans about this in terms of like the biggest contracts that they've handed out. He's probably the guy that has given the most value for a contract in terms of you could always put him in pen every year, 30 starts. He'll win about 15 of them. You're going to get anywhere between 200 to 250 innings. You're going to get at least that many strikeouts. He's going to be a guy that goes 6 to 7 every single time. Yeah. And you're going to have a pretty good chance to win most of the time.
At worst, At worst, when he was at his best, his ERA was like in the mid threes.
And a pretty damn good postseason pitcher from what I remember. I mean,
very good. He was
3 days rest in 09. And
he was the ALCS MVP when we beat the Angels in 09 before beating the Phillies.
The one that always really stands out to me that I remember for him as a Yankee was the winner go home game against the Orioles a few years later, because I mean, and I don't know how this feels. I
think that was 2012, right?
I think so. Yeah, because that was the Orioles' first year back. I don't know how it felt to Yankee fans at the time, and I'm on the outside, and maybe you can speak to it, but I got to imagine there was a lot of pressure on the Yankees to be like, man, we've beat up on the Orioles for 15 years. We can't let them just come back in and knock us out on our turf. And CC basically just said, hey, I'll get this. And then he did.
Yeah, no, definitely. Yeah, there were a lot of times like throughout multiple, throughout all the World Series, well, not all the World Series, but all the playoff runs we had over the years with CC, where, if we were down in a series or lost a game and, we needed someone to stop the bleeding, he literally would do that until he couldn't anymore. And he definitely saved that, he definitely saved us from losing to the Orioles that year. So, albeit it didn't transpire to much after that against the Tigers in the ALCS, but he definitely at least gave us a chance.
And I feel like someone you kind of touched on it with him being open about his recovery and still is today.
Yeah,
I feel like someone that you can. I mean, and I know it's not going to be everybody's cup of tea because he carries himself maybe a little bit different than other Yankees, but I think if I had a kid who was a left-handed pitcher, I would CC is someone I would definitely point my kid to and say, you see how he conducts himself on the mound, you see how he handles even the most difficult parts of his life. That's someone you want to be like. Maybe you won't have the same build as him. Maybe you won't throw as hard as he does, but you can be like that. You can be that person. I think that's.
Yeah.
I think for someone who is to be the ace of the Yankees is no small task at any time, and I think he handled himself quite well in that respect.
Yeah, and I think he would probably be. He's probably the most logical choice, I'd say, to be like the next number retired, because that's kind of like, I guess that's kind of where we're at. I mean, most of the players from the most of the players who needed their number retired from the 90s dynasties, they got their numbers retired. Obviously, Jeter got his number retired a couple of years after he retired. Obviously that was going to happen. Paul O'Neill, he got his number retired a few years ago. So, I think if there's anyone, if there's anyone else that hasn't already gotten their number retired, anyone outside of that core four from the 2009 Yankees, I'd say CC should definitely be first in line. But
I don't think they're ever going to do it for A-Rod. I think that's just kind of, I think that bridge is in permanent shape, if you will, or lack thereof.
Yeah, that bridge got hit by a mysterious ship.
Yeah.
There's no fixing that.
And Teixeira's probably he's probably right below the line of retirement, like really good for a while. Did what he needed to do, but
he's very
young. I don't know if he's retired number good. He's close.
Yeah, he is very borderline. Mark Teixeira is. I mean, obviously Glaber has worn 25 since then.
Mm-hmm.
And I think JC Escara has 25 now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, at this point, I don't really think he retired Teixeira's number. I mean,
yeah,
I wouldn't be mad if they retired Teixeira's number, but he's kind of the guy where it's like, where the narrative that the Yankees will just retire anyone's number. That's when when you retire someone like Mark Teixeira, that's when it's like, okay,
yeah,
maybe you're giving these people too much ammo, and maybe there's some truth here.
He kind of feels like they talk about the Mendoza line, like that's the retired number line for the Yankees.
Yeah,
being in bars over the weekend, I had to explain to more than one person. It's like, man, David Wright's retirement worthy. I'm like, maybe not to every team. To us, he is. And that,
that's 100%. Yeah.
But I think for the Yankees, it's like, yeah, there's a lot of other teams that if Mark Teixeira puts up that same line for that same time and wins the World Series, yeah, probably. Yeah. But for the Yankees, that standard's a little higher. And I don't know.
Yeah. And I did see some takes about David Wright getting his number retired, and people were nitpicking the hell out of his stats for it, which is how you know that it's a weak argument, because they were like, oh, look at his playoff numbers and his his record. You're talking about win-loss record as a position player,
right.
It's already a wonky enough record. It's already a wonky enough stat as a starting pitcher, but now you want to talk about it as a third baseman. So it's
when he was playing in the Madoff era of the Mets, okay.
But I mean, he leads the Mets franchise in most of the significant hitting categories. And
if not, he's top 5 at worst.
Yeah.
That's when someone's that consistently excellent across the board in the history of the 60-plus year history of a franchise. Yeah, that kind of matters.
Yeah, and it's the only team he played for. So, I don't think it's even a discussion.
And especially that he played a position that, it was a running joke forever that the Mets never had a third baseman that was good for more than 3 years at a time. Ray Knight won World Series MVP in '86 as the third baseman. That was his only year with the Mets. Like Robin Ventura was good for 2.5 years as a Met.
Yeah.
And that was really it. Until David, and really since then, they haven't had any consistent success there either. Been like 1 year of Vientos. Todd Frazier was okay, I guess. Like that's it.
Now, now you gotta see if Vientos can figure it out, or if Beatty can kind of take that position by the horns. But yeah, no, congrats to David Wright. It was well deserved. It was a great time. That's gonna pretty much gonna do it for this episode. You got any final thoughts or final words for the people before we go?
No, it's just been good to see this team just finding ways to win games again. Haven't been the prettiest, but like the fact that the lineup's kind of stalled a little bit and they're still finding their way through, and we know the pitching hasn't been perfect. It's okay. Maybe this team's closer to figuring it out than a lot of people want to admit. It's been so surprising to me to see, and I get it. June sucked, but I was seeing this beforehand. How many people have just been out on this team, and they were in first place for 2 months, and they've never really been more than 2 games behind at any point, and people just remain convinced that this team's doomed. Maybe something's flipped in me, but I really think there's a chance for this team to at least get as far as they did last year. I remain optimistic with this team until they give me a reason not to be, and I don't think they have.
I really don't see why not. Outside of the June swoon, it seems like they pretty much bounce back anytime they get knocked down. And I would expect them to be, definitely expect them to be one of the last few teams standing towards the end of the year. I guess my parting words would be Yankees, just figure it the fuck out. You're wasting prime years of Aaron Judge. I mean, some of that's his own fault too, because he definitely enables some of the country club mentality and culture that this team has, and he goes to bat for players that quite frankly don't deserve it. It took them this long to DFA DJ LeMahieu, but just figure it the fuck out before it's too late. Maybe defense does matter. Like maybe teach your players how to actually play baseball on a fundamental level, because the talent is there. It's just they just gotta, if they could just have even average fundamentals, I'd feel a lot better about this team. But yeah, that's pretty much all I got. Figure it the fuck out. Trade deadline next week. We'll be here first thing after to talk all about it.
And real quickly for the Yankees this weekend, if I may quote Patches O'Houlihan, you can do it. I believe in you.
I wish I shared your optimism. We play the Phillies, and it's going to be some tough pitching matchups, but we'll see. Maybe 1 or 2 of those games might be winnable though. So, hopefully we can help you out a little bit. Hopefully we can help ourselves. Hopefully you continue to help yourselves, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
See ya.